Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the RussRantz podcast. Seriously, I appreciate it. If you're wondering what this podcast is all about, really it's about you. It's for you. It's about having conversations with ordinary people and yet hearing their extraordinary stories. It's a platform that hopefully challenges you to challenge yourself to change and improve. Without further ado, here's the rant. Enjoy. Well, hello once again. And just a bit of a disclaimer warning, you guys. If you've checked out my Instagram stories, you know that tonight is going to be a downright podcast battle. And that is because I am hiccuping to the moon and back. So this might take away some of the weight of what I'm going to say for this week's podcast, but it is so good to be back. That is what I wanted to say first and foremost. I missed you guys. Man, this hiccup, I'm sorry if this is really going to bug you. Put yourself in my shoes where it's been 2 days. So this is what's happened, okay? I really missed you guys. I'm back with the RussRantz podcast. I so appreciate you guys. While I was gone, while I was MIA, which we'll get to in a second, we have surpassed over 700 streams on the RussRantz podcast platform, and it's all because of you guys. Pardon me. I love you guys so much. I'm so very grateful that I get to do this and that some of you guys like listening to me and that you guys enjoy what I have to say. Still, people are randomly coming up and you know, to me during, you know, different social occasions or even just messaging me and saying, dude, we absolutely appreciate your podcast. It's so awesome. We miss it. Where have you been? So where have I been? Quite frankly, after the interview with John Overstreet, and if you haven't caught that episode yet, go check it out on the RussRantz podcast. You can go to anchor.fm slash RussRantz. You can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and check it out. It says he's from Georgia, but konnichiwa. We interviewed John Overstreet, the owner and founder of Assortment Gallery. Fantastic guy. And again, fantastic interview. He did a great job. He was so polite. He came all the way from, he made time for me all the way from Japan, which was super duper awesome. And it meant a lot to me. And so that was a really good episode. But after that episode, things just fell off the rail. And you're going to know why, because I messaged also on social media that week that my MacBook had died. My MacBook is my bread and butter. It was given to me by my oldest brother, Addison. And with MacBooks, it comes with a program called GarageBand. And this is what kind of pushed me over when I was super scared to start podcasting. I was worried about how difficult it would be. And GarageBand just removed every single doubt of how to podcast. It literally creates the podcast for you. You just click record. There's your audio file. You make an intro, you make your outro, and you produce it. And it was just so easy, you guys. And I'm going to get into something a little bit deep that's been on my mind and on my heart and that I want to share with you guys for this podcast. But I'm just explaining to you right now why, pardon me, the episode kind of fell off the rails a little bit, okay? My MacBook died. I got the job done with my other computer, which I'm actually using right now. And it just, I couldn't fix my MacBook, and I was trying to wrestle with if this is the computer and this is the program that I wanted to go with for podcasting. Didn't have a choice because I'm using it again. But then when I was getting ready to do a podcast last week, I had just finished my I'm so sorry, you guys. I am still battling sickness, so I'm really sorry if this is just a grungy, terrible, hiccupy podcast episode. Maybe this will just be super entertaining for you. But we just finished my youngest brother Lyndon's bachelor weekend camping trip, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. Had a great group of guys. It did rain, but we like improvised with some awesome tarps. Just a really good, chill time. And that I actually slept really well. I actually have a smartwatch that tracks sleep. It's for work because it gets notifications, but I have a smartwatch that tracks my sleep. And so I actually got better sleep there than I have in like months of being a dad. I averaged like 6 hours of sleep at home, and I averaged like seven and a half on the campground we were at, which was awesome. And so I felt pretty good. And then we got back on Sunday, and I just started to kind of feel a bit gross. And it was the long weekend, and then Monday came, and it just, everything fell off the rails, you guys. I had fevers, I had chills, aches, I'm not trying to be a baby. I'm just saying that that's why the podcast did not happen that week. And so that was super tough. I was super isolated. I had to work from home most of it, and I didn't want to like do anything on Instagram. I did a few funny things just to stay connected with you guys because I like connecting with you on my Instagram stories. By the way, a little plug for RussRantz. If you are not following me, you can follow me on. Sorry, guys. Whew. You can follow me on Twitter at RussRantz1 or RussRantz. RussRantz on Instagram. Oh man, this is going to be a battle. So bear with me. Some of you guys said you're listening. You've been faithful since the very beginning. So I'm just going to trust that you guys are going to power through this with me. Okay, solidarity, RussRantz people. We're going to power through this together. So got some exciting stuff that I want to announce and go through. We got a lot to catch up on this podcast, and I don't want to waste any time. First and foremost, we are going to try to continue with our schedule of every single Wednesday releasing an episode. I am trying my best to get a process going that streamlines the podcast. I want to make sure that I stay consistent. I know that one of the biggest obstacles that any platform faces, any brand faces, is consistency. And I know, pardon me, I know that you guys, you're doing this for me, but with me as well. I know that you guys don't listen because I'm the best talker or because I make the most sense all the time. A lot of you guys have just said that you enjoy hearing my thoughts, and I want to create a safe place where you all as well can share your thoughts. That's why I also plug RussRantzReal@gmail.com. You can send me your thoughts, stories, and comments, and obviously you can send me a direct message on Twitter and Instagram as well. But the overall premise of this podcast is I want to bring value to your lives. I want to set a really appropriate table for safe conversation. Okay, so we're going to try to get back to every Wednesday. That is my commitment to you. Again, I would love to still hear your thoughts. You're going to see more and more of me throwing out kind of like survey questions on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. It's a little bit tougher with Twitter. I really like stories just because they're so spontaneous. And if you guys could see me right now, which I'll get to announcing that in a second, I am sweating so bad. So I'm sorry to put that image in your head. My body is not sure what it feels like right now. It's like so confused. It's like you're hiccuping and you're sweating, but also you're talking and you're coughing. My gosh, it's just such a mess. But I'm going to power through this. But you'll notice that I keep trying to throw out like, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about this week? What do you guys want to discuss? What's been on your mind? I'm going to try to open the platform a bit more. Why is that? Because, again, it's fun to know that you guys enjoy hearing my little whimsical thoughts or my rants occasionally or my stories or bringing in guests, which you're going to get more of. But ultimately, this is useless and dead without you guys and participation. It takes two to tango. It takes you and me together. I know that you like listening to me, but I also love hearing from you. Otherwise, I'm just a guy alone in his basement studio venting to himself. And that's not why we're all here. So let's get to the main rant, shall we? Oh, man. Definitely more disorganized. Again, I'm going to just stop apologizing, but I love you all. Thanks for bearing with this rough podcast. It's probably one of the roughest ones we're going to have. Okay, put that on record. Okay. Some changes are happening. I announced it on my Instagram story last week before everything kind of hit the fan. I said I was going to have an announcement of just some really cool things that I was going to kind of step into. And I want to explain it. I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. And I want you guys to understand the reason behind it. It's a good reason. The changes to the RussRantz podcast, the podcast, as I already mentioned, is going to remain. I started this in January to push myself. I started this in January to connect with people that I felt like I wanted to connect with. I started this podcast even though I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of making mistakes. I was afraid of looking silly. I just knew that this was on my heart, that I wanted to get out there and say, hey, you're not alone. Hey, you're not the only one that thinks about these things. Or, hey, if you just need someone to distract you while you're working or you're on a road trip or whatever, I'm your man, right? Like, I love radio, and if this is something that you make as a part of your week, it's just so touching. And I would dare say that I've grown so much in this whole podcast. Oh my gosh, this whole podcast thing. Again, by the way, I've thrown it out there on Instagram and Facebook asking for remedies. So if you're super annoyed right now that I'm still hiccuping, this is your fault. You guys didn't provide me answers enough and quick enough. Oh my gosh. And so I've definitely grown, and I've definitely, I've overcome some fear of failure, but there's still residual effect. There's still hesitations to try new things. Um, there's still the fear of that all of this is for naught. And as you guys have known from other podcast episodes, I try to abandon ship as soon as I get a whiff that this is pointless. And you have not done that. If anything, you guys have answered the bell. You've answered the call and said, no, Russ, we appreciate this. I know it maybe doesn't mean a lot to you sometimes, or it feels like a real struggle, but we really enjoy hearing from you. So that does mean so much. And hence why this is going to be a rough podcast episode. I'm hiccuping and coughing, and I'm going to get to my point here, what I want to talk about. But the point is to push forward. No matter how crappy I feel about this, no matter how useless this feels, I got to do me, and I got to do this for you guys. I got to do this for me, because this was why I started, was to grow and push myself. So since January, the podcast has grown. We average, I have no problem being honest about this kind of stuff. I look at the stats. We average around 35 to 38 listeners an episode, which is incredible, which means that if you thought you were one of the only ones being super nice and supporting me, I am pleased to say, first off, thank you again for supporting me and listening to me so faithfully, but you are not the only one out there. And that's so touching. And we've grown steadily, and hence why we've hit over 700 streams. And random people who've said, hey, I don't listen consistently, but I heard this episode, it really spoke to me. I've heard this episode, it really got me thinking. So cool, right? So we've grown. So I've been kind of debating and thinking and chewing about the podcast. And I do feel like there's still some room to expand and grow. But I also know that podcasting in how saturated it is of a market, it's not the only reach that I want to do long term. And I don't mean that arrogantly, like, guys, I'm outgrowing you. No, not at all. If anything, you guys are still perfect for me. You guys are safe. You guys are encouraging, and I still hopefully get to bring you guys some value in a format that is easy to listen to on your phone, on your computer, and you can take it with you wherever you can go. That's the whole beautiful part of a podcast. Okay, it's portable. You can take me with you, and you can listen to it when you can. It's not rushed. It's awesome, and that's going to remain. But I've been feeling like there's a part of me that still needs to grow and expand and try to push myself out of my fear of failure into different mediums. So I wanted to announce that today. I don't know how to announce it and segue it better. I'm hiccuping and coughing, for goodness sake. So this is just going to happen. The RussRantz podcast is actually now going to also turn into a RussRantz YouTube channel. And it's kind of funny because I've actually been talking to a webcam here at the same time as this whole episode, and you can check it out on my RussRantz channel within the next week or so as the first podcast episode. It might blow your mind and be like, wow, it looks really grungy, or Russ looks really rough. You're right, I do. I am pretty rough, and to be honest, this wasn't the way that I wanted to start out this operation. But again, we're just going to jump into it. We're not going to hesitate and let fear or insecurity get the better of us. We're just going to jump into it because that's what RussRantz is all about. And so here I am. This is me. So you can go to the RussRantz channel. Pardon me. You probably can just, I believe I've tried it before. You can just go into youtube.com and search up RUSS space RANTZ. And I'm going to add podcast to it. And you're going to be able to see this episode. And then hopefully starting forward, you're going to be able to, if you want to, you can just watch me talk. It's the same podcast episode. If you want to take me with you and, still listen to me at work or on the road, that podcast platform is not going to change. But it's dipping my toes into the YouTube world. Now, why? Because everyone's doing YouTube. I'm going to take off these glasses, by the way. I don't need them, I guess. And now that I know you guys can see me, I'm just tired of sweating in them. The reason why I'm branching into YouTube is not because everyone is doing it and it's an easy way to make money. Actually, if you do your research, YouTube is probably one of the riskiest careers you can do out there, and because again, it's so saturated. But I felt like it's something that I wanted to experiment in, and the podcast again is just dipping my toes into YouTube. It's forcing myself to at least start uploading videos and trying to be consistent. So as I upload the podcast, like I regularly do, I'm also going to upload these footage episodes on YouTube as well to just push myself. Pardon me. And it's like working out. I'm not lifting the big dumbbells first. Pardon me, or bench pressing 500 pounds. I'm starting with the baby dumbbells. And that's what uploading the podcast footage to the YouTube channel is it's just saying this is somewhere I want to grow in and expand. And in order to do that, I need to take a leap of faith. And why am I doing that? And that's what I kind of want to talk about today is when I did this episode with John for that episode for Assortment Gallery in that episode, for that interview rather, it really scared me. I had all the anxiety and panic hit me full force when I had lined up one of my most random guests who was the real deal. He was in Japan. He was willing to share his story. And I'd worked so hard to schedule this. And I know John was super accommodating. So John, if you're watching this, man, you've been super accommodating as well. Really, really appreciate you. But with that whole thing, my MacBook being shut down, it scared me because it was like all the lies that I had been fed my whole life kind of came back. Because remember, I'd started this to overcome fear. And when the MacBook just seriously died, the hard drive fried, my whole method of doing the podcast was null and void. I had to redo my intro music. That's why it sounds so different. I'm going to probably redo it when I have more time, but this one was just so hurried, and sometimes hurried stuff is the best. But it scared me, you guys. It again just brought back, it's scary how immediately all the negative vibes and all the negative lies that I have believed my entire life just came. Like all of a sudden it's like, see, all of all their hard work, even though you're trying to be consistent, you're trying your hardest to push through this, things are still going to go sideways on you. You can't control anything about that. You're going to hit a roadblock. And that was hard. So I powered through it. I chose not to think that way. I uploaded the episode. It made it work. You guys were super supportive. Many of you guys, some of my friends called me to talk about the episode. Hey, how'd you feel it went? John seems like a really cool guy. That's really wild. You should get him back on the show, ask him more questions. A lot of you guys messaged and said that's really cool. You guys were super supportive, but in the back of my mind, I was freaking out because I had to change my world again. I had to do something that I'd kind of refined and made my own and built a safe, efficient system that was comfortable. Even after I had pushed myself to be uncomfortable, I had settled in. And I'll get to that in a second. But after I'd built that system, it came crashing down. And I was forced to improvise again and rebuild again. And it gave me so much anxiety. And then I got sick. And then I'm thinking now, pardon me, now I'm thinking, well, now I got to remake all of this, and I've missed a week's episode, so I'm losing momentum. And again, I'm just getting more and more anxious as this is going forward, and it's just crazy how quickly I panicked. And that's why this YouTube thing is going to happen now. After I took a week break being sick, and after I'm doing a setup that I'm still not totally confident in, the audio quality, I hope it's okay. I know it's quieter than other episodes past, but I'm working through that. I'm legitimately uncomfortable and scared, you guys. Maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal to you where you're like, what, you're just uploading some footage to YouTube and you're doing your podcast like normal, just on a different computer. To many of you guys who don't have the same struggles and issues that I do, you're absolutely right. It's not a big deal. But to me, it's huge. To me, it's my mental giant that I have to overcome. And it's really humbling. And so I'm choosing to not only look forward and be like, I'm going to do the same thing that I have been doing. I'm going to do it different. I'm going to push. And that's what really, scared me and caught my notice is how we as humans, even after we overcome a huge milestone, because I'd like to think that all of us, if we can help it, are growing or trying to grow. And again, that's why I said it the other day and a few episodes back. I said I want to bring value to you guys. Otherwise, this is just moot. There's no point to this. I want to bring value. Otherwise, I'd rather just spend my time on something more meaningful elsewhere. But right now, as long as I feel like there's value coming to you guys and there's value still being put inside of me, this has purpose and this has a reason to do it. And so, man, sorry again, you guys. Man, I can't wait until next week when my voice is perfect and you guys are like, dang, he doesn't look all sweaty and sad anymore. But that's what we humans do. You know, we go to school for the first time and we're just super anxious and nervous, and then we get comfortable, and then we find a clique of friends because we're uncomfortable, and we branch out and we make some risky decisions, and we build up some really cool relationships. And then what happens? You know what happens typically in schools. That's when the cliques get created. And then you start to shun other kids who are trying to branch out and reach out, and they're taking huge steps to grow. But it's because our instinct is once we settle on something comfortable, we self-defend. And we settle, and we plant our flag in, and we make a bunker because we hate being uncomfortable, and so we don't want to keep moving in uncomfortable steps longer than we have to. And so this podcast, when I started it in January, I was freaking out. I'm working with my brother's MacBook, which I've never done before for podcasting. I used my gaming headset. This was part of it. This is actually my new gaming headset. I used my old gaming headset that was broken. Pardon me, didn't know what I was doing, and I just started, and I had no one listening to my podcast. No one listening. But then as I got more consistent, as my friends were joking that they enjoyed listening to it, I just kept pumping them out. And my wife and I settled on a schedule that we could work through. It wasn't going to sacrifice family time, and we both felt great about it. And then people, again, the comments started coming in. What was I doing? I was now setting up my bunker of comfort, because I was starting to get some success. And guys, that is so dangerous. I'm not trying to get all preachy on you, but this is literally what I just went through a week ago. 2 weeks ago, actually, with John's interview. I pushed myself. I'd reached out to this random businessman in Japan, and I said, listen to my podcast. Tell me what you think, and if you think it's worthwhile, get on my podcast. Let's interview you. And I passed. He said, yeah, man, this sounds really good. This sounds like something I want to be a part of. Like, that's awesome. Do you see how many risks were involved there and how many things had to happen? So grateful. And then what happened? I got comfortable. And the moment that I'm about to have this really big breakthrough or moment of greatness and be like, yeah, this is probably one of the most exotic guests I've had yet. Everything, pardon me, shuts down. Everything shuts down. And then I freak out again. And immediately my mind goes to, this is all for naught. Which tells me I still have so much growing to do, and I shouldn't get comfortable. I talked about it a few weeks ago. I keep saying that because I actually don't remember which episode it is, which is so encouraging because it means that I've produced so many episodes that I'm just like, I don't remember which one it is. Go check it out. I think it's the episode before John Overstreet. I think it was a solo episode. I talked about a really good visit I had with my Uncle Tuan. And, pardon me, how he had passed his 25th or 26th wedding anniversary with his wife, Doreen. And he stressed to me, he said, we cannot level off. Even 25 years into marriage, we cannot level off because if anything, when you level off, there's no flat plane. There's no equality and you just hold equilibrium. No matter what, if you stop moving forward, you're going to go backwards. And I realized how quickly I could push myself into a negative habit of moving backwards. I could have shut down. Even right now, I could. I've gotten into a system on my PC now, not my MacBook, where recording is somewhat okay, and I've got an intro. It's kind of, I want to swear, half the effort, right? I did half the effort, and I built myself an intro and an outro, and I'm good to go again. I'm comfortable. I've set the templates up. I've got my schedule back. I still got my recording equipment in my studio. Let's just settle back in. But no, instead I felt, and I wasn't actually even going to film this episode today, you guys. Because I wasn't ready. I didn't feel ready. I didn't know how to edit it. I didn't know how to produce it or get it working, and I'm going to figure it out. It might not be up in a week. I might be behind a bit. That's okay. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to set up huge expectations. I just got to experiment. I got to grow. I got to get out of my bunker, and I got to push myself. So right now, if it's just setting up a webcam and filming myself talking the podcast, that's still a step in the right direction. That's still a step of growth. And I just want you to take a look at yourself too. And I said it in the other one is look in the mirror. I think that was the episode I talked about leveling off as it's all coming back to me. Um, why do I keep telling you to look at yourself? Because I see so much potential in all of us, in the world, in a lot of people. When you look up Jeff Bezos, there's a famous photo of him. He's the CEO and founder of Amazon. In case you don't know who Jeff Bezos is, I've mentioned him before. He's the richest man in the world. Crushes Bill Gates of Microsoft. Like the dude, because it's Amazon. It's an online shopping center. There's music now, courier systems, so much stuff that Amazon is involved in and owns. Um, pardon me. There's a famous photo of Jeff Bezos in a dank, dingy office. No, it's not fancy. I don't even think there's a window looking outside, and it just shows like a rough piece of paper on the wall of this dink and like dimly lit office, and it says Amazon Books or Amazon.com or something like that. And it just shows, and it was a little article. It talked about small beginnings, and you got to take a step somewhere. And somewhere Jeff decided, you know what? No one else is selling books online. The internet has just birthed. I'm going to sell books, and I'm going to try it out, and I'm going to risk everything. I'm going to risk finances. I'm going to risk stability for my family. But it's worth taking the shot. And he did, and look what happened today. But everyone could be like, oh, yeah, look at Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world, man. He's so posh. He's so privileged now. Dude, the guy seriously risked everything to start this job. Imagine if it didn't go. We would never know who he is. All that money, fame, power, that's nothing. That's a lot of people's stories who are famous. Marshall Mathers, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is MM, and that's actually where he got his rapper name Eminem. Marshall Mathers, he's from Detroit. He just started writing down rap lyrics on a napkin and then competing at rap battles and just grinding it out. He didn't have necessarily visions of fame. He just wanted to keep doing something that he was passionate about and hope that things would improve, and they sure did. But there was no guarantee. When you set up your bunker, you're banking on the guarantee you've seen so far. Think about that. When you set up your bunker of comfort, you're saying, I've stretched myself this much and I'm happy with it. I'm settling. And I'm not trying to be rude or mean, but that is really the only best word that you can say is it's settling. I'm comfortable where I'm at. Here's where I stay. I plant my flag. I lay down the sandbags. I build my bunker, and I will defend it. And that's why people get so defensive sometimes in the workplace about the position they have. You know, vice president, managers, supervisors, they'll try to crush you if they're unhealthy because they've worked so hard. And I shouldn't use parentheses for that. They've worked so hard to get to that position. And then when someone comes in who's sharp, motivated, ambitious, and wants to make a difference, they crush them. Why? Because that's their bunker. And if you start invading their space like, oh, so-and-so looks like a real keener. It looks like, you know, the boss wants me to mentor him, or the boss really thinks he's got a future here. I got to crush him. It's because you're defending your bunker. You know? Pardon me. When there's been something in the back of your mind that you're really tempted to do, but you try to justify yourself out of it. Oh, the finances aren't there, or it's really risky, or I'm just not in that stage of life where I can take that huge risk. What are you doing? You're defending your bunker. You're justifying your bunker. You're digging deeper trenches. And I know it sounds super silly that this sparked it. Like, Russ, you're blowing this whole, like, your computer died thing out of proportion. Well, welcome to the RussRantz podcast. Of course I'm going to blow it out of proportion and turn it into something that I want to muse about because I'm passionate about moving forward. I don't have it all together. Again, I'm in my basement studio, hiccuping every few seconds and coughing. I've just given up the whole self-image thing. It's not going to sound the best, but I hope you guys are hearing me, and I hope you guys missed me. Oh my gosh, I missed you guys. But I don't want to defend my bunker. If anything, I want to give it up. I want to say send me back out in the trenches of the unknown. Yeah, there's pain. And I'm definitely making a war analogy, but it just makes more and more sense in my mind as I, um, pardon me, kind of break it down. Is risk and growth is battling in the trenches. And there are some bunkers, guys, that are necessary. Like there are some bunkers of rest that you need to have. There are fortresses and strongholds in your life that you need to have. I'm not saying that you can never rest, you can never give yourself a break, you can never celebrate the victories that you've worked so hard to achieve. No, that's bull. Like you need to rest. Steve Harvey got a lot of flack because he said millionaires don't sleep 8 hours a day. When you've got the stock market, out open in the east, it's already been open for 2 hours. When you wake up in the west, you don't sleep a regular 8 hours. You got to work your butt off. And a lot of people are like, actually, man, it's both. You work your butt off for sure, but you also need to give yourself a break because you'll break down if you don't. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you're all failing because we're not all killing ourselves every day, shooting for the stars 24/7. What I am saying is it's easy to justify current success as enough. It's easy to justify that promotion as, all right, perfect, I did it. Lyndon talked about it in the episode of, maybe it's not just have your cake and eat it too. Maybe you need 2 cakes. Check out that episode if you haven't heard it yet. It's a really good episode with my youngest brother, Lyndon. And congratulations to him and Gabrielle, who just got married this last weekend. Super, super stoked and proud of you. He talks about these musicians, these superstars, these movie stars who work all their life for fame and fortune. And when they finally get it, they get depressed, suicidal, lonely. They go into addictions because it was their ultimate achievement. They had hoped and dreamed that it would satisfy all of their waking moments and needs, and really when they hit it, they didn't. And that's because they didn't branch out. Leonardo DiCaprio's super passionate about the environment. I wonder if he didn't have that, how much he would want to continue acting. He's one of the greatest method actors of our time. It's super, super emotionally investing to be a method actor. And yet he's still passionate about it because it helps fund his passion of, environmental activism. It's incredible. What are you doing? It doesn't even have to be a big thing. Look at me. I'm a father of 3. Got my beautiful, gorgeous wife. I've got a house that I'm fighting to pay for. I'm just doing a little podcast. But if I never started it, I wouldn't be past 700 streams. Pardon me. I wouldn't have people that I consider loyal listeners. And that's not even parentheses. As you are going to get to see more of me, you're going to apparently see that I'm parentheses happy. So I'm just learning that the camera's there now and how often I do crap like that. It's so crazy. But loyal listeners. I have loyal listeners now. People that say, I missed your podcast. I'm sorry you're sick. You got to get back up and running soon because I want to hear another episode. Like, that's so cool. It's not meant to fill my ego. It's just encouraging because it's like that relationship would never exist if I never took a risk and started the podcast. I know that I'm kind of busting through this and really rushing through. I'm not trying to. The fact is, I'm very tired. I even debated doing this podcast. I debated starting this, especially doing the webcam. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. But I'm just going to run into it because if not, I'm going to agonize and stress and worry about it, and I'm going to try to overanalyze it, try to mitigate and eliminate as many mistakes as possible, and it's probably just going to kill the motivation to do anything different. And that's what's probably happening to a lot of you guys right now is you're thinking about maybe starting a business or you're thinking about going after that promotion, but you've done this job for years and you're comfortable, but what if you're meant for more? What if that natural desire to be a supervisor instead of just an employee is really real? Oh, but now I'm responsible for people. Pardon me. What if I have to fire someone, or what if I have to confront someone or train someone or lead or mentor someone? Well, that's growth, isn't it? That's taking a shot. That's moving away from your bunker. It doesn't have to be earth shaking. It just needs to be earth moving. I'm going to say it again. It doesn't have to be earth shaking. It just needs to be earth moving. Taking a shovel and digging a little bit at a time, even every so often, is still going to dig you a deeper hole than agonizing and worrying where to dig, how often you're going to dig, how much work it's going to be to dig. Are you going to be a good digger? Is it going to get you where you want to go? Is it going to be a big enough hole when it's all set done? You see what I mean? Like, overthinking anything is not going to get you anywhere. You just got to take a shot. And that doesn't mean start your $1 million business and get her done. Well, Katie Schmalinsky and Mark Schmalinsky of the Everyday Kitchen in Regina, she had her kid and she just was looking for different things to do. Her husband got her a baking book and she just started experimenting, using it as kind of a good, healthy coping mechanism to get through her postpartum depression. And then she developed a recipe for sourdough donuts, and the rest is history. Now she's got 2 kids. She no longer makes donuts out of her kitchen. They've rented a space, and it's a cafe. It's a cafe. And yet 2.5 or 3 years ago, I can't remember. Sorry, Katie, I don't remember how long ago it was. But if she never did that, there's no Everyday Kitchen. There's no cafe. There's no business. She's doing different things, and maybe she's happy, or maybe she's wondering if there's more out there. And you're not going to be successful in everything you do. This YouTube thing, this podcast even, it might go nowhere. I almost did parentheses, but I didn't. Woo, I'm growing. Look at me grow. This might go nowhere, and I might just be able to console myself with knowing that I've grown as a person. A few people were inspired, or, they thought about a few things differently because of it. But I think that's still worth it because I took a chance. Yeah, maybe I dug in a different direction away from my bunker and fought in the trenches for a bit and figured out it was a battle I couldn't win and moved away, but I still tried to stretch out of the bunker. Again, I'm going to come back to that analogy. I'm just going to hold on to that because that's the only thing that's really centering me here as I hiccup and feel like garbage as I move forward. Here's the deal. I said it last time too in Look in the Mirror. I love you guys. I don't know who you are. You 36.5 or 37 average listeners. I don't know who you are. You probably know me, or maybe you've never heard of me in your life and you just listened to it because of a friend, and now you're thankful. I'm thankful you're here. And maybe being able to see my face or see me try to do stuff and maybe screw up and be okay with it and have a smile on my face, maybe it'll inspire you to try something that you want to do. That's the whole idea. It's not necessarily about success. It's about fighting for success through failure and taking chances. And this is definitely not how deep I wanted to go in my first podcast back. I definitely want to be more lighthearted down the road sometimes. Not all the time. Obviously, I want to bring value. But this is just on my heart. And I did a lot of soul searching last week as I was sick and, really bummed out that I missed a podcast episode. And then, pardon me, after I'd worked for months to get a process and a system in place to produce my podcast episode, and it all comes tumbling down where I got to start all over again, it was really discouraging. But I'm going to grow. I'm going to take chances. And yes, it's going to be more work. And yes, I am setting myself up to be hurt and in pain sometimes, or discouraged or disappointed. But I'd rather know at the end of my life that I took some shots. Let me rephrase that. I'd rather at the end of my life know that I took more shots and missed on a lot of them than took too few shots and didn't hit much. I'd rather take as many shots as possible and be like, yeah, I tried at least, than, maybe I should have tried that. I don't know. I don't want to live with regret. YOLO. You only live once. Life is too short. Yeah, I've got 3 kids, and they're going to watch this maybe someday and be like, Dad, remember when you tried that podcast or that YouTube thing and it didn't work out? Why'd you do that? Because it was worth it. Because it was worth trying. Because that's what life is about. When you go out on that soccer field, yeah, you might not be the best soccer player, but it's about trying your best and trying to grow. And if you can come off the field panting, knowing that you tried your hardest, you ran your fastest, you kicked your hardest and tried to be the best team player you could be, then I'm proud of you. That's what I want. Yeah, you maybe didn't win the soccer game, but you overall are winning at life. So win at life. And if this sounds like a repetitive message and you've heard it from me over and over again, well, I'm sorry. This is what was on my mind. This is my rant for the day. I've gone through a lot. I'm super, super duper tired. And these hiccups, as you know, they're just not going away. Pardon me. Gonna try peanut butter again or something. That worked earlier today, but golly. So I'm gonna tune out. I'm gonna try to keep this one a bit shorter, just for obvious health reasons, and as well as just getting back up on my feet. Love you all. Super stoked that you're along with me for the ride. Let's see how this YouTube thing even goes. Again, that's youtube.com slash RussRantz or RussRantz podcast. I'm going to try to figure out what works best for you guys. And again, you can catch me on any major podcast platform. Just search up RussRantz, Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. And also find me on Instagram at RussRantz or Twitter at RussRantz1. Drop me a line at RussRantzReal@gmail.com. Again, I want to hear from you. And thank you so much. This has meant the world to me. And I look forward to ranting to you guys next week. Have a good night. Oh, man, I'm so tired. Have a good one. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the RussRantz podcast. Feel free to like and subscribe to support. I love hearing from you, so make sure you send me any feedback and show ideas at RussRantzReal@gmail.com. You can find me at Twitter at RussRantz1 and Instagram at RussRantz. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you next time. Seriously, take care. Bye-bye.